Science cannot tell us everything, and most scientists would be the first to accept that. Testing, experimenting, and theorizing are all part of the process, but they don't always land on a clear answer. Sometimes, we just have to accept that there are things we don't know or simply can't explain. And honestly, it's not bad. But that's the fun part. It's proof we've still got plenty left to figure out. So let's take a look at these science-defying discoveries and see what they teach you. Number 15. The Greek pyramids of Argolis. The ancient Greeks and Egyptians clearly interacted, but how far did that influence go? Well, some believe the pyramids scattered across the Peloponnese Peninsula are the result of that exchange. Often overshadowed by Egypt's massive monuments, these Greek pyramids remain overlooked and poorly understood. They're sometimes called the Pyramid of Helionikon, though only one was mentioned by Pausanias in the 2nd century. Thermoluminescence tests date them to over 4,000 years ago, but stylistically they look more like late Hellenistic constructions, roughly 2,400 years old. Some researchers argue that Egyptian mercenaries may have lived in or guarded these structures, yet nothing concrete backs up that theory. Oddly, remnants of cisterns exist inside the pyramids, suggesting they had plumbing, perhaps even domestic use. Are they shrines, tombs, or something else entirely? Without further excavation, nobody really knows. But their presence and their silence make them one of the strangest architectural puzzles in the Mediterranean. They're the pyramids nobody talks about, but probably should. Number 14. The Dolmen of Soto. The Dolmen of Soto isn't just another Neolithic burial site, it's a 5,000-year-old enigma buried beneath the soil of Hulva. This huge underground passage tomb was accidentally discovered in 1922 by Armando Soto Mora, who was trying to build a house in Andalusia. What he found instead stunned archaeologists. German scholar Hugo Obermeier led the first excavation and uncovered 8 human skeletons, each curled in fetal position and surrounded by grave goods, cups, daggers, and oddly marine fossils. That last part remains unexplained. Marine fossils in a burial context are unheard of in Spain and suggest some unknown ritual or belief. The tomb is also encircled by 43 engraved standing stones, each etched with symbols, human forms, blades, drinking vessels, and abstract markings. Despite a century of study, nobody has deciphered what any of it means or why these individuals were buried here. The more we learn about the Dolmen de Soto, the more cryptic it becomes. It's a monument that refuses to give up its story. Number 13. The Eye Island. In Argentina's Paraná Delta, just outside Campana, there's a perfectly round island floating inside a crescent-shaped body of water. From above, it looks unnatural, so precise that it seems man-made. Nicknamed the Eye. The island slowly rotates within its own lagoon, a feature visible in time-lapse satellite imagery over several years. Filmmakers scouting the area in 2016 noticed the movement while planning a supernatural-themed shoot. The phenomenon triggered speculation, some calling it a natural oddity, while others believing it's artificial. The water around the island moves in a consistent circular pattern, which might be due to currents and erosion, but nothing has been studied in depth. A Kickstarter campaign was launched to fund a full expedition, but it didn't reach its goal, and interest dropped off. The island still spins, with no confirmed research explaining why or how it formed. Whether created by Mother Nature or something else, it remains untouched and unexplored, circling quietly in the middle of nowhere, under years of unanswered curiosity. I mean, I have never seen something like this. Number 12. The ancient megaliths of Mizoram. In 2016, Indian archaeologists studying a cluster of ancient megaliths in Mizoram came to a bold and golden conclusion. These structures weren't built by any known culture. The stone platforms, carved monuments, and faded engravings simply don't match the characteristics of nearby civilizations. Some researchers have even suggested that a lost city could be buried in the dense undergrowth surrounding the site. What triggered that idea was the discovery of a water pavilion surrounded by stone platforms, something never before linked to the region's known history. For decades, the assumption was that these were remnants of Mughal-era architecture. but the detailing, proportions, and context don't fully align. Instead, they suggest something older and unfamiliar. If this truly was a separate culture, it may have remained hidden from historical records by design, or simply by time and terrain. With thick forest cover and minimal archaeological investment, this part of India has kept its secrets well. But now that the structures have been recognized, questions about their origin are finally being asked. Number 11. The Green Man in medieval England. Across medieval churches in Europe, a peculiar and weird symbol keeps resurfacing. It's a carved male face swallowed by leaves. Archaeologists call them green men, but they still don't know why they're there or what they really represent. You'll usually spot them high up on ceilings, sometimes with stoic expressions, sometimes with mischievous grins, or even tongues sticking out. The leafy visage isn't a medieval invention. Similar imagery appears as far back as ancient Rome, where Dionysus, later known to the Romans as Bacchus, was often depicted wrapped in vines and greenery. That connection raises eyebrows. If these carvings do link back to Bacchus, then why were pagan figures so openly integrated into Christian architecture? That contradiction hasn't been resolved. While it's tempting to assign a symbolic meaning to these carvings, their purpose remains unclear. They exist all over Europe, each slightly different, yet unmistakably part of the same visual language. Why churches would embrace such a figure is still an open question, and one that keeps resurfacing across the continent. What do you think about it? Number 10. The Konkan petroglyphs. In the rocky plains of Rajapur, just a day's journey from Mumbai, a staggering set of petroglyphs has been hiding in plain sight. Recently uncovered, this collection features over 100 carvings etched into hardened laterite stone depicting animals, human figures, marine life, and what looks like the shape of a boat hull. While the artwork's exact age remains uncertain, researchers agree it's at least 10,000 years old, possibly as old as 40,000. That timeline pushes these glyphs into the realm of the Upper Paleolithic. The scenes show people fishing, hunting, and gathering, clear markers of a hunter-gatherer society. But this wasn't idle art. For people living with limited time and resources, carving stone carried deeper significance. Maybe it was a ritual, communication, or maybe storytelling. The issue is that very little archaeological attention has been given to the site. Until someone invests in proper fieldwork, the full meaning behind these petroglyphs will remain locked in stone, misunderstood, and mostly ignored. Number 9. The ancient Egyptian demon star. Over 3,000 years ago, ancient Egyptian astronomers inscribed a calendar on papyrus, cataloged today as Cairo Calendar 86637. Within it is something that still baffles modern science, a reference to the demon star in the Perseus constellation, which we now call Algol. The ancient text describes its cycle with uncanny accuracy, specifically that its brightness shifts every 2.85 days. Algol is a binary star system where one star eclipses the other, creating the same visible dimming pattern noted in the calendar. But here's the issue. Western astronomers didn't even identify this cycle until the 18th century. The Egyptians not only saw it, but also used it to mark time. Some believe the star's unsettling flicker led to its association with evil or bad luck, which is how it earned the Arabic-derived name Al-Ghul. Why the Egyptians chose this distant star over the sun or moon for timekeeping is unclear, but they clearly tracked it, understood it, and embedded it into their spiritual and scientific systems with precision. Number 8. Tierradentro sits underground labyrinth. In the highlands of Inza, Colombia, lies Tierradentro, an ancient, barely understood necropolis carved straight into volcanic stone. This network of subterranean tombs, spiraling staircases, and multi-chambered shafts stretches across the region, forming the largest pre-Columbian shaft tomb complex in South America. Archaeologists estimate that construction occurred between the 6th and 10th centuries CE, though some suspect the structures may predate that. The craftsmanship is astonishing. Winding stairways lead into chambers linked by corridors, culminating in large ceremonial halls. Walls stretch up to 40 feet wide and 20 feet high, adorned with elaborate murals, human faces, figures, and undeciphered shapes. The murals alone signal an advanced culture, but not one we've been able to identify. Despite decades of study, there's no name for the civilization responsible, no written language, and no surviving oral traditions. It's as if they flourished, buried their dead, painted their walls, and vanished. Tierradentro stands not just as a burial site, but as the echo of a people's history forgotten. Number 7. The ritual figurines of Yikpabongo. Near the village of Yikpabongo in Ghana, archaeologists uncovered 2 ancient burial mounds that held something unexpected: grotesque clay figurines, dating back nearly 1,400 years. Many appear humanoid, but with strange anatomical features, conjoined heads, exaggerated limbs, and what might be depictions of congenital defects. One figure shows signs of an encephaly, a condition that still affects children in parts of Africa today. Were these figures meant to honor those seen as spiritually significant, or were they meant to absorb illness on behalf of the living? That's still unknown. What's especially intriguing is that internal scans of the figurines revealed tiny hollow channels, likely used for ritual liquid offerings, possibly even blood. Despite the dramatic design and ceremonial use, these objects show no clear connection to the present-day communities living nearby. No oral traditions, no cultural overlap. That absence of continuity has led some researchers to believe these figurines belong to a forgotten civilization, one that vanished without passing on its beliefs, stories, or identity. Number 6. Australia SIP's alleged Egyptian pyramid. We know the ancient Egyptians built boats. But how far did they sail? Some believe they crossed entire oceans, even reaching modern-day Australia. That claim circles around Walsh's Pyramid in North Queensland, which some argue hides a literal pyramid underneath the mountain. Historian Ray Johnson was convinced that an Egyptian noble named Lord Nefertari was buried beneath it. Supporting this is a strange set of hieroglyphic-like symbols found at Gosford, around an hour away. Found in the 1970s, the markings resemble Egyptian writing, though many scholars have dismissed them as modern fakes. Still, they haven't been conclusively disproven. The symbols aren't organized the way traditional hieroglyphs usually are, and their layout raises doubts, but oddity alone doesn't confirm forgery. To truly put the matter to rest, the only solution is excavation. Dig beneath Walsh's pyramid and find out what's there. But strangely, no one has done it. Until that changes, this theory remains stuck in limbo, controversial, unlikely, but never fully ruled out. What do you think about it? Well, let us know. Number 5. Ubehebe Crater at Death Valley. In June 2021, Google Maps users spotted something strange in California's Death Valley, what looked like a massive black and green teardrop-shaped crater surrounded by scattered tanks, a wrecked boat, and the remains of a crashed plane. The area isn't far from military facilities and lies within restricted airspace, but this object doesn't match any familiar military structure. Some think it's an artificial lake or a sinkhole, while others suspect the satellite image was digitally altered to obscure something classified. The shadow it casts suggests depth, but its coloring and isolation don't line up with known terrain. Adding to the mystery, a sand-colored twin structure appears directly opposite it, as if mirrored. The downed aircraft nearby only deepens the confusion. It's not clear whether the object is natural, experimental, or simply misunderstood, but the official silence hasn't helped. The most believable theory? It might be part of a testing site for unmanned aircraft or weapon prototypes. Until more is confirmed, the crater remains unexplained and barely acknowledged. So what do you think about it? Number 4. Neanderthal footprints in Spain. In 2020, researchers in Spain uncovered a trail of footprints made by Neanderthals more than 100,000 years ago. Preserved along the coast, the impressions don't look like simple tracks. Their layout suggests deliberate movement, and no one can agree on what that movement was. Some think it's evidence of stealthy hunting, Others suggest the possibility of ritual or social behavior, maybe even dancing. Among the tracks is a smaller set belonging to a child, which challenges the hunting theory for some researchers. But in ancient times, children often joined adults on hunts to learn survival skills firsthand. The location strengthens the theory. It was once a rich marine zone, full of shellfish and water sources, both ideal for attracting game. Another idea, though less supported, suggests the group may have been noodling, using hands and feet to catch fish, a method still practiced today. However, the truth is still a mystery. Number 3. Anglo-Saxon textiles in England. In January 2021, archaeologists digging in Overstone, Northamptonshire, found something they didn't expect: tiny fragments of Anglo-Saxon textiles that somehow survived over 1,500 years. These scraps were discovered during a major excavation ahead of planned development, where more than 3,000 grave goods and 154 human burials were uncovered. Finding textiles from that era is rare. Fabric usually decays beyond recovery, but in this case, it survived thanks to metal items like brooches, which preserve the mineralized threads. Alongside the Anglo-Saxon graves, the team also found the remains of 22 structures and early signs of a Bronze Age settlement beneath them, possibly dating back 4,000 years. The dig is now being expanded to explore that earlier layer. It's not just a burial ground, it's a multi-layered site revealing two civilizations stacked on top of one another. What started as a routine archaeological check has delayed housing plans and turned into one of the most unexpectedly valuable digs in recent British history, all from a few forgotten threads and a metal pin. Number 2. The Viking toolbox of Borgring. In late 2016, archaeologists working at Borgring, a suspected Viking fortress in Denmark, found what appeared to be a wooden toolbox buried beneath the remains of a long-abandoned structure. Though the box had mostly rotted away, the iron tools inside were remarkably preserved. The items are thought to include spoon drills for boring holes into timber, simple pliers, a specific nail likely used to secure planks, and a draw plate for shaping wire. These weren't ornamental, they were practical tools, the kind used to build ships, weapons, and homes. And yet they were left behind, something unusual given the value of iron at the time. Most tools that reached the end of their use were offered to the gods, not simply abandoned. Some historians speculate the fortress itself may date back to the 10th century and may have been built under the orders of King Harold Bluetooth. If true, this box may have belonged to craftsmen who helped construct the stronghold. Why it was left behind, though, remains unsolved. Number 1. Stone Age tools in Wales. In 2017, a team of archaeologists set out to explore a known Bronze Age settlement in the Clydian Hills of Denbighshire, Wales. Instead, they stumbled onto something far older, an arrangement of triangular limestone tools from the Stone Age. These tools were intentionally placed in a stream around 4,500 years ago and don't resemble anything ever found in the UK before. While limestone exists naturally in Wales, the type used here doesn't come from the area, meaning the stones were likely brought in from elsewhere. The tools may have been used to chip at rocks and carve petroglyphs, but that remains speculation. The archaeologists eventually found the Bronze Age remains they were after, but the earlier Stone Age layer raises entirely new questions. Whoever these early people were, they left behind no traces but these tools. No burials, no settlements, no markings, just a handful of precisely crafted objects and silence. It's everything we know about them, and it isn't much. But it's a start. If you have found this interesting, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon.